Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Love Your Vibe. I am your host, Sean Robert Grant. Oh, so happy, so excited to be here, so thankful, so filled with absolute joy and gratitude, as I stated. So thankful to be here. Hope you guys are feeling fantastic. Hope you guys are feeling well. I'm just feeling really amazing right now. And the reason why is we're going to talk a little bit about this today. I'm going to make a promise to you. I am going to dive so deep into the psychology of success and what I know to be true and what I know to work for me, that I know will work for you first and foremost. But I'm also going to really I'm going to allow it to flow. And I'm going to leave you with some ideas you can really put to practicality here before we end this podcast. But, I'm just grateful because I just look back at my life. I look back at this past year and I think about how I've grown. I think about how I've been in a position to be the very best that I feel like I could be. And I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful. And it just sometimes, we predicate or dictate or define our success on all the great things we've done, but we never really take the time to take all the stuff that we've overcome. And so I think it's really important to do that. As a matter of fact, let's start off with that and getting into the psychology of success. So I don't have any type of number. I was going to number these, but what tends to happen is when you have a preconditioned list of what you're going to talk about, it disrupts the flow of what you really need to discuss. With that being said, I'm going to get right into it. And I think just what I was talking about is a perfect example of the psychology of success. And what that means is really take a look at your resolve. Take a look at how powerful and determined you are when you look at a lot of the things that you've overcome and look at where you're standing today. If you're anything like me, you experienced a lot of struggle and turmoil at a very young age. And it almost became like it was something that was so holy crap. Really? Like, is this really happening? Is this really unfolding? For such a very long time. And that was struggling until I got a hold on what was actually taking place. And that was my soul. That was the divine really enabling me to be as strong, as confident, as resilient, as capable as possible to carry out my soul's purpose. So when I look back on that stuff, I used to get upset and I used to blame everybody. But then I had a bit of an evolution, actually a huge bit of an evolution, where I understood that, I can't blame people for what I came to encounter to make me better, right? All I can do is forgive them. I can't stand here and say this person is this or this person is that because they did this to me or whatever. No, the first key to success, other than looking back on your past and recognizing how much you've overcome, part of that psychology is just realizing that you are responsible. Because once you take the blame off everybody else, you give yourself the power. That simple decision gives yourself the power to make all things start to work together for you. And so I noticed this in my life. When I was at a position of, I was blaming people left and right for what they weren't doing in my life. And, saying that it was their fault, saying that they're the reason why I'm at where I'm at. I never went anywhere. I stagnated. I couldn't do a damn thing. And I drank because emotion that powerful causes you to move into addiction. So alcohol was my choice of addiction. And until I up and decided that, you know what, this is not going to work like this. There has to be a better way for this to unfold, for me to be the very best that I can be. And so I just said, you know what, enough is enough. I took responsibility. No matter what it was that happened to me, no matter what it was that unfolded, I took responsibility for it, and I moved from that 0 point on up. And that is really when things started to work out for me, when I knew that, okay, if this is going to work, I have to rely on myself first and foremost. And what that means is relying on God first and foremost, the God in me, and then relying on myself. And that's what I did, and that contributed to so many different successful outcomes. Okay, so take responsibility for yourself. So getting into the next aspect of psychology of success, this is a huge lesson because this really is paradoxical as it relates to what society believes success truly is. Okay, and it just comes down to: don't chase money, don't chase relationships, don't chase fame, don't chase notoriety, don't chase any of this stuff. Because when you begin to chase it, I watched this guy, Aaron Doughty, his video he had, so amazing. He's got like a really, really cool YouTube channel, but he was talking about this, and it really kind of sparked in my mind that, you know what, I'm not here. Like, physical success is absolutely great. You know, having the house, having the car, having the wife, having all these things, the vacations and whatnot. I've done that. And I can honestly tell you that it feels so much better when your greatest desire is your higher self. Your greatest desire is your source inside of you that knows without a doubt that you are everything you need to be on the inside. That becomes a true measure of success, right? Not chasing, things to look a certain way to certain people. To be honest with you, if you saw me on a regular basis, you wouldn't at first think that that other than the energy that I'm giving off, you wouldn't think that I was like your typical success, because I'm not wearing a suit. I'm not dressed down to the nines. I'm dressed comfortably. My energy is loose. It's relaxed. I'm laid back. I'm smiling. I'm having a good time, and I truthfully and honestly feel that's where you need to be. You need to succeed in being yourself first before you can succeed in being or having anything else. Okay? You got to succeed in being yourself first before you can succeed in being anybody else. So you might know I'm an actor, been an actor for a long time. And when I was younger, I used to imitate all like the big stars, all of them, from singers to actors to athletes. I would impersonate them right down to a T, where my mom literally shook her head because she's like, okay, you became this person. I really feel like I was going through identity crisis, because it was my objective to be all those people. But you know what? Being all those people, I never succeeded until I realized who I was. Once I realized, okay, this is Sean. This is who Sean is. This is who Sean is going to be. Let me embrace this. And all of a sudden, that one decision, opens me up to myself and helps me to take off. And as I've gotten older, almost 38 now, in like a couple weeks, I embody and embrace and love myself to such a high degree, because I realized all that stuff that I went through. But I knew how important it was for me to garner that self-love, how important it was for me to gain the truth in being who I really wanted to be, and that was myself. And that's a key, once again, another key to the psychology of success. being loving and accepting yourself 1,000%, no matter what anybody says. No matter what anybody says. That becomes so important. Okay? So moving right along, and it's so cool because I don't even have a list. I'm just kind of getting these fed to me from a divine downloaded standpoint. And the next one that comes to mind is intuition. So when you think of intuition, you think of intuitive guidance. You think of how important that is. And if you use your intuition, you understand how important it is. If you're not, you need to start. Because I ask for inner guidance in absolutely every single thing that I may take part in. And to some people that may seem crazy, but to me, it's always wanting to be in the midst of the highest good for every single person involved. And the only way I can do that is consulting the divine. The divine knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. And it's not like I'm trying to figure out the future, although it may seem that way at times. All I'm attempting to figure out is, okay, if I choose this, what's going to happen here? See, it's like certain outcomes, certain actions determine certain outcomes. And if you make the divinely ordered action, if you take the divinely ordered action, you can get the divinely ordered outcome, right? But if you don't, then you realize all of a sudden, oh crap, I could be in some serious trouble. And it seems simplistic, but it's so magnifying. You will look back on your life and realize that. Thank God for intuition, because intuition has allowed me to be in a place, in a position where I'm making all the right decisions, not only for myself, but for everybody around me, everybody involved. And that becomes something so terrific, so amazing that we always need to take part in. And honestly, intuition is just getting quiet, just meditating and asking for guidance. Like, one of the greatest things you can do for intuition is journaling. Like, take out your journal and just write whatever comes to you. And just look back on it. I use my journals as like intuitive guidance now. Whenever I need to like really know something, I flip through and see what kind of wisdom is there. And it's always perfect wisdom that's there for me to recognize and to benefit from. So, we've got into a few. The thing is, there's so many different outcomes or aspects to the psychology of success, and everybody's going to have a different, perspective on what the psychology of success is. When we really get down to psychology, we're talking about behavior. We're talking about what's driven from a deep, I don't even want to say urge, but it's almost like you have a prime operating system like your computer, right? And then that operating system can be programmed for love, success, prosperity, or it can be programmed for the opposite, right? And so the psychology of success comes down to what type of programs are you putting in to your operating system, your subconscious mind. I made a promise to myself that at the end of last year, I was going to program my subconscious mind for prosperity. And would you know, the more I dived into it, the more that was revealed to me to help me to program my mind for prosperity and success and wealth and abundance and all the other great stuff. And it really opened me up to see, okay, I wanted this, or I desired this, but my mind wasn't even able to comprehend what it would feel like until now. So now that my OS is basically running the program, live long, prosper, be healthy, or be happy rather, that can be my behavior. And when that's my behavior, in addition to my dominant thought, so even before I got into spirituality really deeply, this is another thing that kind of ties in to your operating system. You have to find a dominant thought. And a dominant thought is what you think what you think about whenever you're involved in a situation where you can succeed or fail. Okay? And I'll never forget, and I'm going to share a story with you, and we got to get going here in a bit, but I was in my senior year of college at Louisiana Tech, and I had suffered some serious hamstring injuries. And it was one of those things where, looking back on it now, I wish I would have had Louise Hay's, that book that tells you can heal yourself, because it gives you the metaphysical cause for, what's going on in your physical body that's due to emotions. And so I look back on that, and I was doing my best, but my leg just wouldn't budge. And I had a coach who I'm going to have him remain nameless, but he's a great coach, and I love him so much. And I'm really glad he did this, because when I was able to take responsibility for my own life, I realized how much of a blessing it was. So my last name is Grant. He called me Can't Grant one time, because I spent the majority of the previous season saying I can't do this because my leg is injured. And so if you've ever been in collegiate athletics, you're injured for a long time. These are like 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. They don't believe that you're injured all the time. They think you're faking, right? So he thought I was faking, and he called me Can't Grant. And I tell you, I believe I was 20, 21 at the time. And he told me that. And it lit something within me that basically said, I will never be this person ever again. Every time I think of this person, I'm going to think of the dominant thought that I was telling you about before. And that dominant thought is, I will succeed at everything that I do. I am succeeding at every single thing that I take part in. And that was my dominant thought, and still is to a degree, but so much so, everything I took part in, I succeeded, and almost blatantly was blowing people out of the water. And anything like, well, I tell you, my coworkers, as I had jobs early on in my 20s, my coworkers would hate me, because the performance that I would give out was so much more different than what they were giving, because my dominant thought had to be, I must succeed. That was the true psychology of success. Now, it's more or less now succeeding, but also helping others to succeed. I guess you can say is my prime dominant thought at this point. And so, the psychology of success is whatever you make it. It's finding what works for you and what gives results, but also being open to learning new stuff, because honestly, I just gave you, I think, about 5 or 6 or something like that, but there are thousands, literally thousands, when you think about how to get your psychology a successful one. So before I go, all I want to say is, to wrap up, if you remember nothing else, if you hear nothing else that I shared with you today, understand this. Success is often just about self-love. Self-love, self-approval, self-acceptance. And so what we mean by that, self-love, self-approval, self-acceptance, is we desire to be in a space to where, regardless of what happens, we can look in the mirror and say, you know what? I appreciate you. I approve of you. I accept you. That, my dears, is true success. Knowing that regardless of what the outcome is physically inside, in your heart, you can accept who you are 100%. I promise you, you do that, and you will experience a great psychology of success. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute amazing pleasure. We'll talk soon. Take care.